All right, y'all. So this is gonna be a one take and one take only. If I'm gonna read you the script. It's not usually what I do for my content, but I feel like this is something I really worked hard on, and shit, yeah. So any movie studios want to make this to a movie, call me. But besides that, I feel I got myself a really good script here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read it to you, and yeah, as you can see, I have all these slides here just to show you the process. But I'm just gonna read you my script, and hopefully you like it because yeah. Anyway, um, if somebody texts me or calls me, I'm gonna put pause and I'm gonna say continue, and we go on from there. So anyway, this is a three-part series, but I'm only giving you the first part of the series because I haven't. I'm like working on the second part, but it still needs some work. But I'm almost done with the second part, so let's start. I'm gonna give you the intro. The script is called Our Destination. I don't know if that's taken already, but this is the movie script for Our Destination. I'm gonna give you the intro starting now, and I'm not gonna stop reading until I finish this thing. Okay, first things first. Intro starting now. You don't even have to watch me and read this. You could like close your eyes. You could just listen to me say this shit. So yeah. So anyway, Our Destination script starting now. Intro. The intro is just setting the scene. Um, I have two main characters, Melissa and Usher. Names are subject to change. So anyway, without further ado, officially now, um, Our Destination script intro now. So the official beginning of the story starts in Los Angeles on a Sunday but cold morning, fall season. No, on a sunny but cold morning, fall season, 7 a.m. You hear Big Boy on the radio waking people up, talking to the city going to work. Shots of the city, big, huge LA. Anyway, so Ty Dollar Sign, Kendrick Lamar, LA is playing on the radio, and as the radio host keeps talking, he switches it to Ghetto Superstar by ODB. Anyway, give me a second. So, as that's going on, our main character, Melissa, wakes up in a hurry. Meanwhile, the song, hold up. Meanwhile, the song plays in the background. Melissa gets ready. Then you hear a voicemail from her parents. The parents explain they were on their vacation date overseas in London. So Melissa's parents are overseas, right? Over in London on a vacation, honeymoon, or whatever. And they're just saying that there's food left over and there's emergency money. So that's when Melissa checks the fridge and she sees the emergency money, and there's quite a good amount. Happily, she hurries out the door wearing a gray hoodie, and she grabs her backpack and she's headed off to school, where there are two buses loaded and with a note on her hand. So Melissa gets to school, and she's getting in the bus, right? Give me a second. All right. So anyway, Melissa gets to school, and then as she's in the bus, as she's about to get in the bus, her teacher, Mrs. B, as I said, names are subject to change. Mrs. B, she looks at Melissa and she says, "Nuh-uh, signature, Melissa." in which Melissa turns around in a sad voice. She says, I was busy. And then Mrs. B, she's like, signature, I'm not going to risk it again. And then Melissa, trying to come up with something in her head, trying to make an excuse, but Mrs. B interrupts it and she says, unless you can't get the airport in the next 10 minutes, I'm afraid you won't be able to go. And then Melissa looks disappointed and heads out to school and decides to walk home because she for sure knows that she's not going to get that signature. So as Melissa walks home, and she makes, so Melissa's walking home disappointed, and then she makes a turn on this street, right? And as Melissa walks home, a car follows her, playing 6'4" by Easy E. Drizzle rain, it's raining now, it's drizzling, and Melissa puts her hoodie on. She looks back and she sees the car, but she tries to ignore it. That's when the car pulls right beside her, and then you hear a voice. Hey! Melissa turns to the car. She says, what? That's when she sees her friend, Janet, who's in the car, talking to Melissa. So Janet's all like, get in. And she unlocks the door. Melissa gets in, and she says, and Janet says, aren't you supposed to be in a field trip? That's when Melissa replies, aren't you? And sets down her bag in the back seat. Janet replies, Kent, looking forward. She says, heading to grandma's. And needs to take care of her since mom's gone. It's up to me now. Government assistance won't show up till spring. Melissa's like, oh. And Janet says, what about you? Melissa hands her a paper. Janet takes a look at it. She passes it to her brother, who was driving, and grabs a pen from the dashboard and signs it. Janet hands the paper back to Melissa. There. Melissa says, you don't think she'll notice? Janet says, no. Mr. Mosley says he's going for an important book deal, but through the grapevines. She leans over and says, I heard he's going on a date with biology teacher Mrs. G, in which Melissa replies, Mrs. G? Damn, okay, I see you. And then Janet's brother, his name is Usher, says, where to? And Melissa says, the Natural History Museum. So, as they reach, okay, pause. Now, I'm continuing. Melissa reaches just in time. The teacher gives her students some information before looking around using the buddy system. The teacher says, okay, I get it. 1 more hour. The students cheer. And then the teacher says, Melissa, and says, you're here. Melissa, looking exhausted, says, I managed to get the signature. Caught up with him as soon as y'all had left. Mrs. B replies, huh. Talk about luck. You're partners with Meg. Melissa happily tries to contain her happiness and says, cool. Students enter the museum and look around. Melissa and Megan look at a couple of art and animal bones walking throughout the museum. They even stop by a polar bear statue. Megan turns around looking at something. Melissa says, this thing weighs as much as 10 full-grown men. Think about the damage. Still looking at the bear. And then Megan, distracted, says, gift shop. Going there? Now. Melissa says, that place looks dead. Megan says, I wonder what they got. Hopefully shirts, completely ignoring what Melissa just said. And she walks straight towards the gift shop and starts handing. Wait, what up? And then as they're in the museum, it starts raining much harder. The weather's getting crazier. Anyway, they search and search until they find some souvenirs. Heading to the cashier, Megan pays, looking at Melissa, who has jewelry on. Anyway, she says, grab one. It's on me. Melissa says, really? I appreciate it. Megan says, you owe me. Just kidding. Anyway, Melissa gets the crystal necklace and Megan pays. She says, oh, okay. Pardon me, the scene is almost done. So after Megan pays, they get back on the bus. Melissa smiles proudly and they head off home. When she gets home, Melissa puts her backpack down. She cooks, showers, gets ready, eats, and pushes a button on her controller and lays down to sleep, but she has a weird dream. Remember, it's really raining outside. Okay, that was chapter 1. Now, chapter 2 is starting now. Okay, so in chapter 2, um, Melissa's at her home, as we can see, and she is sleeping. So, chapter 2 is called The Weird Dream. So, starting now. In this dream, Melissa is walking around the woods, transitions from the woods to the cemetery. She sees a family surrounding a grave. Curious enough, as she gets closer, the people disappear and the grave is left alone. When she walks closer to the grave, trying to read what's on it, she hears a sound behind her. She looks back, then forward. Then she screams and wakes up. Melissa wakes up in a heartbeat. Her heart is beating fast. Inhale, exhale. Slightly terrified. She looks at her necklace, gets up. Just outside her room, there's a cabinet. She goes to the bathroom, comes back. She places the necklace inside the cabinet and turns off the lights. She then heads off to sleep, door slightly opened. And then there's a shot of Melissa just sleeping, you know. Anyway, as Melissa sleeps, 2 cars pull up. 4 people get out of one. 4 people get out of a car. The other car surveys the situation. The driver from the team, the driver, hold up. The driver from the team goes to talk to the other driver and tells him something before meeting with his crew. Anyway, the crew breaks into Melissa's front door as quiet as they could, and 2 others go in through the back, and they start searching the house from top to bottom. So let me just clarify this. Melissa's sleeping, and as she sleeps, 2 cars pull out of her house. 1 car surveys her, the other car goes in. So a team goes to the front and a team goes to the back door. So it's pretty much a home invasion inside Melissa's home as Melissa's sleeping, with the doors slightly opened. So the rob crew leader, he puts a different set of gloves, says, yo, and points to the ceiling, meaning upstairs. So Melissa has a 2-floor house. Anyway, the crew searches everywhere, and one guy spots the room in which Melissa sleeps. The robber takes out a knife and slowly moves towards the room with evil intention. As soon as he's about to open the door, his crewmate grabs him on the shoulder. crew number 2, which is just a different robber, he grabs his friend by his shoulder and says, "Hey bruh, let's go," whispering to him to make sure there's not too much noise. His crew friend looks back to the room. There's a shot of Melissa sleeping, you know, but anyway, the crew leaves and there's a knock at the door. This is like a couple, like, how do you say, moments after the invasion, moments after the invasion, they leave, and then you hear a knock on the door, and then Melissa gets up and says, "Hey, it's you," which is Usher, and then Usher, who's Janet's brother, who we know now, says, "No." Usher, looking aware, invites himself in. Melissa says, "Rude. You can't just walk in people's home," still in a sleepy, upset voice. Usher, looking around, says, "Are you okay?" Melissa says, "Yeah, are you?" Usher says, "Where is it?" Melissa, confused, replies, "Where's what?" Usher says, "The diamond." Melissa chuckles, says, "Diamond? I don't have any diamonds. Are you okay?" Usher says, "Alright, look, my sister is friends with Megan. You know her, right?" Pause. Give me a second, I'm trying to catch up. Okay, let me continue. So Usher says, "Alright, look, my sister is friends with Megan. You know her, right?" Melissa says, "Yes, of course, I was with her," confused and curious. Usher replies, "Her house got broken into while she was out having dinner with the family. My guess is they're looking for the diamonds they misplaced." Melissa says, "What?" Give me a second. Melissa says, "What?" Hold that thought. She goes to see if her necklace is in the cabinet, which it's not. It's gone. The emerald on the necklace, it was legit. Usher says, "Seems that way. I suppose as long as you're breathing, it's all that matters," and exhales in relief, making his way out the door. Melissa, pacing back and forth, stops for a few seconds, frozen and deep thinking. Frozen and deep thinking. Let me repeat that. It's very important. She says, "We need to get that necklace back." Usher, alert, turns around, says, "You said what now?" Melissa says, "The necklace. We gotta get it back." Usher says, "Are you on drugs?" Melissa says, "I don't care. I feel like it's the right thing to do, but how can we?" Usher looks at Melissa, worried but surprised, replies, I mean, return it to where? How? To who?" Melissa says, "Come on, Usher. I know you know people. I know you know." "Fine. I'll do it myself." Usher says, "Okay, okay. My boy says he might know the necklace whereabouts. I'll hit him up and see what he knows." Melissa says, "Great. I'm gonna get ready." Usher, hold on, give me a second. Melissa says, "Great. I'm ready." Usher pulls up his phone and starts heading outside. What have I got myself into? Melissa goes back into her room. Okay, that's end of chapter 2. Now, I gotta take a break. Okay, chapter 3, the heist. Alright. Chapter 3, the heist. Melissa and Usher drive towards a big, wealthy house. They go through a big gate and they meet with security at the front door. He says nothing and leads them to his boss. They meet the boss in a very open space living room with plenty of luxurious art paintings. The boss walks into the room holding a bottle of wine and a wine glass on the other hand. Alright, so that's just setting the scene, okay? So let's go back to where they're in the car. So in the car, so as Melissa is driving, Usher in the passenger seat, they exchange small talk, in which Usher says, "You ready to meet the connect?" And Melissa says, "Look, I'm shaking." Give me a second. Look what I gotta work with. Yeah, anyway. So now they're in the living room. And, give me a minute. Give me like a minute. Alright, so now they're in the living room. So Brianna is the boss of this huge manor luxurious place. And she looks at Melissa and Usher and says, "Let's make this fast." Usher, um, no, give me a second. So Brianna, right, looks at Melissa and Usher and says, let's make this fast." A waitress offers Usher a glass of wine, but he rejects with a head movement, and Melissa denies it also. Usher says, "Word is, you know where the emerald necklace is." Brianna replies, "Well, which one?" As she takes a sip of her drink of glass of wine. "There's loads." Usher gives her a look. To Brianna, "Stop fronting. You know which one." Melissa standing next to Usher. Brianna takes a big sip of, of her wine, waits a minute, and says, "How's it look like?" Melissa replies, "It's a string with a clear emerald in the middle. It's nice, but not that nice." Brianna gives the glass to her waitress, but keeps the bottle. "Let's say I had it. How much are you willing to pay for it?" Melissa, looking upset, says, "It doesn't belong to you anyway. It was stolen from me." Usher tugs on Melissa's shirt, cutting her off. "What are you asking for?" Brianna, playing with the bottle in her hand, says, 4 million. And Melissa, shocked and mad, says, 4 million? Seriously? Who the hell's gonna buy that cheap ass necklace for 4 million? Trying to trick her into lowering the price. Brianna gives security a look, and security leaves the room. Then comes back with a black long box. Then security leaves again. So it's just Brianna, Usher, and Melissa in the house. I mean, in the living room. In the living room. Okay. Brianna, Melissa, and Usher in the living room. Right. So anyway, she looks at Melissa and says, "Is this the cheap ass necklace you're talking about?" Melissa is gonna say something, but Brianna cuts her off. Oh shit. Pardon me, that's on me. Let me say that again. Melissa's gonna say something, but Brianna cuts her off. She says, "I'm gonna stop you there. Now, I don't know who I was told, but my research team." No, she says, "I'm gonna stop you there. Now, I don't know who, but I was told by my research team a certain someone is willing to pay a fortune for this bag. Don't know why they want it so bad." She looks at Melissa and says, "Why do you want this bag?" Melissa gives a quick look at Usher and replies, "Like I said, it was stolen. It was stolen from me." Brianna says, "That's unfortunate. 4 million is my price, nothing less. You buy? Usher looks at Melissa and says, "You got 4 million laying around?" Melissa looks at Usher and says, "Is there a way we can get it and pay you back later?" Now looking at Brianna, Brianna smirks. Melissa says, "Who do we have to kill?" Usher, shocked, says, "What are you doing?" And now they're having a conversation between them two. Melissa to Brianna says, "I'll do whatever is necessary." Brianna replies, "Well, now that you mention it." Usher to Melissa whispers, "You're gonna get us killed." And then Usher to Brianna says, "Actually, I think we should leave. It ain't really worth." Brianna replies, completely ignoring what Usher said. She says, "Ah, yes," and gives Melissa a look of concern. "I got it. You both..." No, Brianna says, "Ah, yes," in which Melissa gives a look of concern to Usher. Brianna continues, "I got it. You both can be useful, although you might want to find some help. It could get messy." Melissa looks concerned. Brianna says, "It's not who, but where." Usher gives a confused look to Melissa. Melissa still looking at Brianna. Brianna says, "The museum in the hills." Usher says, "What about it?" Brianna, looking at the paintings all over her living room, turns to Melissa. "I have some paintings, ready for sale. Got a buyer, but he wants them all in the collection at the time of the purchase. I need you to get the last one for me." In which Usher replies, "How? It's impossible. The alarm system is A1. We'll get caught the second we step in." Brianna says, "Don't worry about that. We got your uniforms and fake IDs. You'll act like the cleaning crew. It should be a breeze. You have a short window to pull this off." Usher says, "If it's a breeze, why haven't you done it?" Brianna says, "My crew was ID. They'll see them coming from a mile away. Finding a new crew ain't easy. You never know who's around. They'll never expect the two of you, so you down?" Melissa replies, "Let's do it," instantly. Brianna gives her an envelope. Brianna continues, "Details are in there." Usher to Melissa says, "We're dead." Melissa to Usher, "Stop." Usher replies, "Wait," and goes up to security and grabs a pen from his pocket. Apparently, security is not back in the room. Anyway, he says, "Hold on, my brother. I need to borrow this." He rips a piece of paper from an ancient scroll parchment and says, "Meet us here after. It's a safe location," and leaves with Melissa heading to the front door. Brianna, as Melissa and Usher walk out the front door, Brianna screams out, "Did you just... This parchment is extremely rare." In which Usher says, "Go, go, go," as they head out to their car. So this is Chapter 3, Part 2, which is the heist. Whew. We are now 30 minutes in. Okay, let me continue. Chapter 3, Part 2, the heist. Early morning, sunrise, streets empty. Melissa, Usher, and two other people sit in a van. They look at the building they are not about to rob. One guy in the back, smoking a blunt, passes that to the guy in the shotgun seat. Usher loads a gun and passes one to Melissa. Usher says, "Just in case." So they wait. Usher, Usher destructive friend, clocks his gun and opens the door slightly, looking at the crew. Vamonos. So now they're ready for the heist, and they go in the museum and they point a gun. Give me a second. Okay, so anyway, so they say vamonos. That's when the screen goes black and you hear an argument and then a struggle. The next shot is Usher's homie pointing a gun at the staff manager, leading them to the painting. The staff manager, led by a gun, says, "You're making a big mistake." The, the crew guy says, "I didn't ask you, keep moving." Usher replies, "You better listen to him," to the staff manager. The staff manager passes a couple of desks and he quickly presses a button and an alarm goes off. A crewmate of Usher and Melissa notices and taps the other crew guy on the shoulder and points to the alarm system in which the light goes on and off. Usher says, "That's the painting. Let's get to work." Melissa and Usher take drills out of the duffel bag and then head over to the mirror where the painting is. And now they start to drill all four corners to bring out the painting. So now they're on a heist, and they go in, and then they see Melissa and Usher see a painting on the wall, and then they start drilling all four corners to get the painting. While that's going on, two crewmates are on the lookout. That's the situation right now. So one of the crewmates shoots the staff with a real gun. Melissa and Usher turn. Melissa screams, "No." Crewmate 1, I'm gonna just call them Crewmate 1 and Crewmate 2. So Crewmate 1 says, "Weren't you the one who was down to kill? He just screwed us." Melissa replies, "Yes, but I wasn't actually gonna do it. I was gonna find another way." Crewmate 2 walks in the door as they're arguing and says, "This job is done. Let's go now. Cops are closing in," looking worried. Usher looks at crewmate 1, who's breaking glass with valuable stuff in, like rubies and ancient gold chains, and says, "Come on, we ain't got much time." Melissa and Usher manage to bring down a painting and cover it up in a luxurious black bag, the duffel bag. Crewmate 1 looks around with a real gun in his hand. Crewmate 1 looks around with his gun in his hand, and crewmate 2 is on the lookout. Crewmate 2 fires 3 shots in front of him. Melissa and Usher give a look and begin heading out the back door, where the van is. Usher says, "Retreat now." Everyone begins to back up, heading to the back door where they first came in. 9mm sounds are heard between cops and the crew. Melissa and Usher manage to get the painting in the truck, then Usher heads back inside to get his friend, crewmate 1, who apparently got hit. Crewmate 1 is now on the floor. It says, "I can't feel my legs. I can't feel them." Usher picks him up and fires 5 shots to clear the way and make their way to the exit. He successfully puts crewmate 1 in the back of the van. Melissa helps. Crewmate 2 is ready to drive away. Crewmate 1 is sitting up with Usher heading to the shotgun seat and screams, "Go!" Usher looks back and says, "Melissa, the doors." Melissa is in the back with crewmate 2. So Usher says, "Melissa, the doors." As soon as that happens, 2 agents come from around the corner and take aim at the back of the van. They miss a couple of shots and begin to drive away. But as soon as they begin to drive away, crewmate 1 gets killed with a headshot. Melissa sees it in shock. The van makes a hard right, which forces one of the doors to close. Melissa closes both doors now. Melissa is now stunned, frozen from what she just saw. So let me just clear what I just read. So as soon as they finish the heist, crewmate 2 is driver's seat. Usher is heading to shotgun seat. Melissa and crewmate 2 are in the back of the van. Crewmate 2, his legs are fucked up, so he can't do nothing. He's just sitting up. Melissa, it's kind of slow because this is a lot of pressure for her. Usher says, "Melissa, doors." And as soon as that happens, 2 agents come from around the corner and shoot crewmate 1, headshot. And Melissa's shocked. So that's the situation. Alright, let's continue. Usher looks back, crewmate 2, and says, "Jay, Jay." Apparently, crewmate 1. Damn it. Usher looks back at crewmate 1 and screams, "Jay, Jay." So crewmate 1's name is Jay. So Melissa says, Jay's dead." Stuttering, still frozen, it begins to lose it mentally. She starts breathing fast. Usher says, "Melissa, keep it together. You hear me? Melissa." Melissa's stunned. She now begins to cry and says, "I was gonna, but then he got hit and I wasn't fast enough." Usher says, "Calm down, Melly. Calm down." Melissa, crying but angry, replies, "It's 'cause of me. It's 'cause of that stupid necklace. If only I was faster. If only..." Says, "It ain't worth, damn it." Usher now has a crazy look in his eyes, glocks his gun. Melissa hears it and turns to Usher. Usher looking straight ahead with his gun in his lap and says, "I need to know if you're ready to go through with this. I can't let the friend die for nothing. Are you in or are you out?" Shocked, Melissa says, "Usher." Usher, now serious, says, "I need to know." Melissa looks at Usher and says, No, Melissa looks at Usher. Meanwhile, the car is driving crazy from left to right. Melissa looks at Usher and says, "Yeah, I'll go through with it." Usher replies, "Good." He looks at the driver and says, "Go to the location." Melissa's crying in the back, looking at crewmate 1 who's dead because she wasn't fast enough to close the doors. And yeah, that they pretty much go to the location after that. So now that the heist is over, both groups, which means Melissa and Brianna's, both groups meet at the beach at the location in the dark. Melissa, Usher, and his third friend step out of the van, posted, just watching. We can't hear the dialogue because the shot is from far away, right? We can't hear the dialogue, but Usher seems very upset that his friend is dead in the process. Melissa holds him back from losing it. Usher steps away a couple steps. Melissa gives Brianna the van keys. Then Brianna gives her the box. Melissa checks it, sees the necklace, confirms, and leaves. The scene ends with a serious tone. Now the weather begins to drizzle, but it starts getting clear. So now that the heist is over, the weather is getting better, it's not raining anymore. So now we are now in chapter 4. We're going through this. Okay. Damn it, I messed up. Give me a second, I'm looking at my phone because yeah, I lost track. Um hold up. Okay, chapter 4. I'm just gonna go through this because this is all the time I have. So, right, starting now, chapter 4. It's about to be 2. Okay, I gotta finish this. Okay, chapter 4. Chapter 4 is called The Boat Ride. Chapter 3 was The Heist. Chapter 3 has two chapters. Chapter 4 is The Boat Ride. Chapter 4, starting now. The Boat Ride. In this part, Melissa and Usher arrive to the docks. The camera pans down and zooms in to Usher talking to his sister on the phone booth. Usher, leaning on the phone booth, finishing writing something on paper, puts it in his jacket pocket. He says, "Yeah, I'll let her know. Say hi to Grants for me," and hangs up. He then jogs to Melissa, who's standing outside the bar, taking cover from the heavy rain on a cloudy morning, and says, "What now?" Melissa points to the boat and says, "I found our lift." They head over to a guy named Captain Smith. Captain Smith is looking at his crew and says, "Load it up." "No, not those even. Those can stay." Then looks at Melissa and Usher and says, "Yeah." That's when we have a compilation of Melissa and Usher enjoying the boat ride, looking at whales, eating seafood. Usher's being sick and they run out of. Hold up. Oh yeah, they eat seafood and all that. So now, Captain Smith's taking Melissa and Usher across overseas. Right, that's the idea right now. Okay. So once they get to London, which is where they're at, the UK, they get to London. Once they get there, once the ship docks, they run out of the ship because it's now raining again. They wave Captain Smith goodbye and they run inside the car rental where it's packed. Melissa gets in line. Usher sees an opportunity to take a car keys. He takes it. He takes the car. As Melissa waits, she hears a honk and sees Usher in the car and gets in. Now they take off into the European countryside, the UK countryside, where they saw the interview on TV. So now they're going to the location they've seen on TV, and which is now the church and the gravesite and what it looks like. Pause. Okay, continuing. So now they get to this church gravesite thing. And then Melissa says, "So, they pulled in at night." And Melissa says, "This is the spot." In which Usher replies, "That's what you said about the last 6 locations." Melissa calls Usher over as she looks at the tombs. Melissa says, "It's this one, look," and gets on one knee and points at the scribbles. Can't make out what it says. Latin, perhaps? Usher shrugs. All of a sudden, the ground shakes, and steps and all of a sudden, the ground shakes, and steps form in the meadow grounds, heading down into a cave. Usher points a flashlight, but the light seems to disappear before it reaches the end. Usher says, "You first, hero," in which Melissa hits Usher on the elbow and his elbow twitches. Right. So now they're heading down to the cave and see this big door. No, so as they head down to the cave, they see this big door. Melissa says, "Help me open this." And they open the door and see a body. So as they open this big door, the first thing they see is a body with a hand up in the air and the body laying down. Usher says, "We're late. Who is he?" Melissa says, "No clue. I did see him in my vision, though." That's when somebody walks out from a room. Some stoner gamer dude is walking by with a cup of orange juice, and he notices Melissa and Usher. We're gonna call this guy Lace because I have no other name. So Lace, Melissa, and Usher are now in this underground cave. Lace says, "I said, don't start." And then he looks at Usher and Melissa and says, Melissa replies, "Hey, I'm Melissa. This is Usher. We're wondering if you could help us." Lace says, "Hold up," on his mic and tells his group party on the mic that he'll be right back. And then he looks at Melissa and Usher and says, "Let me go get my Gramps. He'll know what to do." Usher replies, "Hey man." And then that's when Lace looks at his Gramps, which is an old wizard. Right. Anyway, Lance looks sad, but it's as if he knew he'll be gone soon, and closes his eyes in respect to his dead Gramps. In the next scene, they're walking outside into a shed, conversating. Lance, talking to Usher and Melissa, says, "I loved him to death. His time was coming though. You can see it. Here, he told me to give you this," and gives a paper like a scroll to Melissa. Melissa says, "Wait, you don't return this to you?" Pointing at the necklace. Lance says, "That ain't my area of expertise. If you was here in time, he would have returned it for you." Usher says, "So now what? We go home? Can we get something to eat?" Melissa opens the scroll and says, "It's..." Before Melissa could finish, Usher says, "Let me guess. Map." Melissa sarcastically says, "Yeah." She looks into the map and says, "Words are a bit faded, but if you look closely..." "Bulgaria?" Usher says, "The hell's in Bulgaria?" Lance says, "I don't know. Give me a second." So now Lance walks up to a duffel bag and gives it to Usher. Remember, they're in a shed. So he gives the duffel bag to Usher. Usher opens the bag, and there's guns like from the Cold War. Usher says, "I don't know. I have to find out. Werewolves, Bigfoot, Anything's possible. No, 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 Lance. Sorry, my bad, y'all. Lance gives the duffel bag to Usher. Usher opens the duffel bag and there's guns from the Cold War. Lance to Usher says, I don't know. I hate to find out. Werewolves, Bigfoot, anything's possible. Usher laughs. But these shouldn't be an issue as he inspects an assault rifle. Melissa to Lance says, uh, Melissa to Lance says, can you take us there? Lance replies, I'm in the middle of a heist. I would love to, but Melissa says, please, time is an important factor. I got school to get back to. My family might be home soon. If they notice I'm gone, they'll freak. And Melissa and Lance gives up and says, okay, okay, get in the car. It's the black truck over there. Guys, he goes back to his mic on his gaming system and says, I'll be back soon. In which Melissa cheers and they head out into the car to Bulgaria. Excuse the noise in the background. Alright, so this is the part where so as they're going to Bulgaria, right? They get to Bulgaria wilderness. And as they're going into the wilderness, like at the edge of the woods, a helicopter flies in and looks at the black truck. Melissa notices the truck and Usher wakes up. And that's when Usher's like, whoa, like what's going on? And Melissa says, you gotta get to the woods fast. So the helicopter points the black truck going into the forest, heading into the forest, and makes a turnaround. So now the helicopter, which is a it has guns and missiles or whatever. So this helicopter is now looking at the black truck. And Lance drops off Melissa and Usher, and Melissa and Usher, along with the duffel bag, head into the woods. Lance, still in the black truck, goes back to his home, and the helicopter shoots at the black truck, and the black truck explodes. Melissa and Usher react and think Lance is dead. So now Melissa's going into the Melissa and Usher make a plan. So the plan is that Usher stays behind. Meanwhile, um, Melissa goes deeper into the woods to follow what the map says. So now they're into the woods, and um, this is guy, right? No, this is like a crew of bad guys, but there's a leader, and Usher is the decoy. He's a distraction. Meanwhile, Melissa goes further into the woods, looking to see where this place is at, seeing what it will lead to. So, hold up, I didn't write this down, so it's hard to say. So, Usher's a distraction. Melissa's running deep into the woods. Usher sees four guys with guns and flashlights heading into the woods looking for him. So now Usher shoots at them and makes a whole big scene where now you have four of these guys going at Usher, and you have the main leader going deep into the woods looking for Melissa. So now, as this is going on, Melissa's running. So she's as Usher is being a distraction, you know, Melissa's running. She's running fast, deep into the woods. And as she's running, she notices, no, as she's running, she doesn't notice that someone is following her, which is the leader, right? So the leader is scoping at Melissa, and Melissa keeps running and running, and then she hears some gunshots, and that's when the leader, it's like, now she knows there's someone after her. So she's running, and then she feels like her she feels like her necklace is gonna fall. So she holds on to the necklace. But when she holds on to her necklace, um, it's like instant transmission. She's like she's literally teleporting from like a couple feet away, like, and the leader can't believe what he just saw. So Melissa, not that she knows she has this power, she heads back to Usher, grabs him, because now Usher is in a fist fight with some dude, right? So she grabs Usher right in the middle of a very intense scene, and now they are instant transmission heading deep into the forest. So let me put it in perspective. So one minute they're here, instant transmission a couple feet away, they're right here. So that's what's going on. So they're going deep into the woods like this. And then the leader of the bad crew spots Melissa and shoots her. And he shoots her right where the necklace is. So like right here. So Melissa gets shot here. And then Usher goes flying. He just like trips and falls, and like, he's just a couple feet away from Melissa. So now Melissa is shot, and then the bad crew is closing in on them. So now they're closing in on them, and they're right there, and they're all watch as Melissa is struggling to breathe and stay alive. I am 57 minutes in. Cool. Give me a second. Okay. So they're there. That's going on. So everybody thinks Melissa's gonna die. And the leader is so confident that he's walking up to Melissa. At this point, Usher thinks Melissa's dying too. But this is where the weird part comes in. As Melissa's laying on the floor, she begins to levitate, like a couple feet up in the air. And like her necklace is like levitating as well. And if you look closer at the necklace, it breaks into 5 parts. So 5 parts just scattered, like you can't even see what happens because this white, it's like a white flashlight, and everybody's blind. And as this going on, these 5 pieces separate from different directions. And then Melissa drops dead on the floor again, just falls onto the floor. And as she falls into the floor, Melissa gets back up. And everyone is shocked that she's still alive because she literally just took like a big bullet to the chest. Anyway, Melissa gets back up. Usher doesn't believe what the hell he's seeing. And then, hold up. Oh yeah, after this, there's like, you hear some, you hear a noise, like you hear these bushes, like, and then as these bushes going on around them, like you hear like trees and like stuff like that going on. and it seems like there's an animal stalking everybody. I'm trying to put this in the best way I can. Anyway, this is going on, and then all of a sudden, this skinwalker, fucking chupacabra looking shit. Yeah, this skinwalker chupacabra looking motherfucker, right? It's just taking out these the bad guy crew, like it's just going off and this shit is crazy. And then Usher notices that he grabs Melissa, picks her up, and tries to take her as far deep into the woods as he can. Meanwhile, this chupacabra, skinwalker looking thing is busy on the back. So now, Usher is taking Melissa, and then Usher spots two different so like they come up like Usher is like has Melissa, right? He's picking her up, and then Usher comes across two different paths, one going left and one going right. So Usher doesn't know what to do, and as he stutters, um, as he's trying to figure out where to go, um, this chupacabra is nearby and slashes him. Right, he slashes him, and then he falls down, and then Melissa looks. No, 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 no. Sorry, I got that wrong. Usher comes across two different paths, going left and going right. He doesn't know what to do, but at this point, he's too tired that he collapses. And Melissa gets up finally, and then she notices that this chupacabra skinwalker is coming this way. So she starts dragging Usher, and then he starts pulling him back. And then she takes the right way. You know, instead of taking the left route, she takes the right route. As she's pulling him, you know, this skinwalker's coming full speed. And right before he attacks him, he comes to a stop and he leaves. And Melissa doesn't know what the hell's going on, but she looks back and she sees a home, or she sees a building, and she thinks that's a perfect place. So she grabs Usher and she takes him back to a building. So now this building, as they get closer to the building, it's like this big castle, right? Give me a second while I pull out the script. So now, give me a second. Okay. Give me a second. I think I wrote it down. Here, now let me, now that I painted that whole scene, I think I'll continue with the script. Okay. So, so now I'm reading from the script, starting now. Melissa carries Usher, who is injured and half unconscious. A magical barrier prevents the skinwalker creature from killing him. And the bad guy crew back down and leave. Some have died. So now, Melissa and Usher are now in the middle of a bridge which leads to a castle. Melissa opens the door and enters the castle with Usher. As she enters the castle, there's a staircase going straight, but Melissa makes a left into a hallway, and she keeps going down the hallway and makes a right into a library room. And this library room has 12 floors. She sets Usher down and finds a small room that says supplies in. So she goes inside the room, she gets the supplies, and she sees that these supplies are from World War II. And she grabs these supplies and now makes her way back to Usher. She now enters the room and sees the guy standing there. And the guy would call him V. You know why later. So V is like, Melissa, that's you? Melissa says, where's my friend? And V says, you talking to the injured fellow, I presume? Melissa says, yeah. In which V replies, he's fine. My friend took care of him. You can find him on the west side of the castle, next to the stairs. You hungry? And then after that, both Melissa and V have dinner on the first floor, opposite side of the library. So as Melissa walks in, she makes a left into the library. But now the diner hall is once you enter the castle, you make a right. So it's on the right side, completely opposite. Melissa says, "You ain't hungry?" As she eats food, in which V replies, "No." "Well, why are you here?" Melissa says, "I could ask you the same question." V says, "This is my home, passed down from generations. A legacy that's lasted over 2,000. Melissa says, "That's great. Pass me the gravy." She sees the guy who walks across the glass and notices he doesn't have a reflection, in which Melissa replies to herself, "Of course." V says, "What was that?" Melissa burps, says, "Nothing. Good looking out for the food, though." V, confused, says, "Guest room is on the east side of the castle, second floor. I'm off to bed. Let's continue this conversation tomorrow." Melissa smiles with hilarious sarcasm and says, "Let's shall. Good night." And as he walks, Melissa takes a bite of a turkey. Okay, hour passed. Morning to midnight. Melissa takes a shower and heads over to the main diner hall to get water before going to sleep. As she walks through a hallway connecting to the west and east side of the castle, she sees a guy floating. She sees a guy floating to where Usher lays, in which she screams, "Oh shit!" and drops the water glass. Glass breaks and she takes off. V stands for vampire. So now this vampire is now entering Usher's room through a big window, and as he gets closer, his vampire fangs start beginning to show. Just before he could bite him, Melissa bursts into the room, in which the vampire turns to her. Usher is still unconscious. Melissa gives a warning shot. "Hey, get away from him." In which the vampire takes off flying at her, in which Melissa runs down the hallway. The vampire grabs Melissa by the throat and says, with ease, and says, "Now I'm hungry," and bites Melissa on the neck. Melissa screams. At this point, Usher, wait, hold up. At this point, Usher wakes up. He goes outside of the room, looks into the hallway, and sees the vampire biting Melissa. Usher makes a quick action and tackles the vampire. Melissa stumbles out into the hallway, into the center of the castle, walking down the steps with difficulty. Usher says, "Where are you going?" That's when the vampire gets up and tackles Usher. They tussle, and Usher goes down the steps, knocking Melissa off balance, and both down the steps. V flies towards them in attack mode. Usher, with fast reflexes, pulls out a revolver and shoots him twice. V gets pushed back a bit. He lays dead but gets up and flies towards him again. Usher does a self-defense military move on him and stabs him with the sharp weapon in the heart. Exhausted, Usher collapses. He sees Melissa stumbling down the steps even more. He's confused. Usher struggles to follow Melissa. "Wait up, Melissa," he says, and Usher collapses on the steps. Melissa makes it to the basement floor and collapses perfectly onto a coffin, in which the scene fades to black. Now, this is the final chapter. Melissa wakes up and she's at her house. She walks around, but no one is home. This is a couple days after. So, Melissa wakes up and she's at her house. She walks around, but no one is home. Feels like the first scene we've seen her in. She opens the door to her room, and now she actually wakes up, and it's daytime. She walks to the last part she saw Usher. She goes to the steps, and Usher comes out from the diner hall. So, this is the front of the castle. Melissa is now coming out, and she sees. Well, yeah, you know what I mean. Let me read that again, that way you know. So Melissa wakes up and she sees her house. She walks around, but no one is home. Feels like the first scene we saw her in. She opens the door to her room, and she now actually wakes up, and it's daytime. She walks to the last part where she saw Usher. As she goes up the steps, Usher comes out from the dining hall, in which Melissa says, "What happened last night?" Usher points at a vampire laying dead in the corner of a dead end of the entrance and says, "I suggest we get the hell out of here." Melissa says, "Agreed." They find a back door through the castle, ground level, and they walk kind of deep in the forest, but just enough to see the castle. Usher keeps walking, but Melissa is pushed back. Usher turns around. Usher says, "What's wrong?" Melissa says, "Look," and touches a force field. Usher goes back and forth, says, "Try again." And the same thing happens. Usher could pass through, but Melissa can't. Melissa says, "What now?" Desperate. "Here," and gives the necklace to Usher. "If it works for me, it'll work for you too." Usher says, "You don't know that. You can't really expect me to find those pieces alone. They could be anywhere. You're the bookworm, not me." Melissa says, "You have to try. Please. It's perhaps the only way, or else." Usher says, "Then it'll be in the wrong hands. Look, I know." And he sighs. And then he looks at Melissa and says, "You got a map or any idea where to start?" References. Melissa says, "The North Star," and takes out her compass. She says, "That way," and hands it to Usher. He looks at her compass quickly. Melissa says, "I'll figure this out. Might take some time." Usher, thinking about it, second guessing. He then goes to her and hugs her and tells her, "Be careful. I still think we should stick together." Melissa says, "Find a college. Public. Private. Doesn't matter. Look for ancient languages. Keep tabs on the news in case someone finds something. Hopefully by then, I've broken whatever this is. Good luck." Usher looks at Melissa and says, "I'll see you later, Melissa," and hugs her. Melissa stares until Usher is out of sight, and Usher walks away with the necklace glowing. but he doesn't know it because it's daytime. And that's when Melissa goes back into the castle, and that's the end of the movie or end of the script of part one ending. Well, okay, so hopefully that was clear enough. That took a while. Um, part two is still in the works, but I have it kind of mapped out already. I'm glad you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this, give this a thumbs up or whatever. If you need more clarification, um, put it in the comments. If you want a copy, I'll give you a copy, but I might have to charge you for that one. But yeah, hopefully you guys got the idea of what our destination, the script is about. It's is a fiction story, so anything can happen. But yeah, and that's it. See ya.